The third generation of the Toyota 4Runner was from 1996 to 2002. In the background, you can see my 2002 Toyota 4Runner. I've driven this thing for 7 years and it now has over 340,000 miles, which I think is incredible. But if you're in the market for a third gen 4Runner, you've probably realized these things have held their value. They are expensive. Some of these things are selling for $10,000, $15,000, maybe even $20,000. At the time of making this video in 2023, all third gen 4Runners are now 20 years old. That's not a short amount of time. So why are these things so expensive? We're talking about pricing and comparison here in just a moment, but let's break this down into 3 sections. The first reason why these things are so expensive is because they are reliable. And everybody's going, surprise, Toyota's reliable. Everybody knows that. And these third gen 4Runners are no different. My favorite example of Toyota reliability is from the show Top Gear, where they took a 80s Toyota pickup truck, and it was a Toyota Hilux, and they crashed it. They drove it into the sea. They wait for high tide to come in and to get overtaken by waves. They put it on top of a building. They demolished the building, and out of the rubble and all that thing will still run. All they had to do was like connect the batteries and get the water out of the cylinders, and that thing ran, which is crazy. So it's no secret that Toyota is reliable. In the 7 years I've had this 4Runner, I've put nearly 200,000 miles on it myself. And in that time, there's hardly been any surprises or any like repairs. I've never had to have this thing towed home. There's been a lot of oil changes. There's been a lot of brakes, a few sets of tires, and I've done some preventative maintenance. So preventative means it didn't break and I had to fix it then to drive it. I did it for peace of mind or just to keep the overall health of the vehicle good. So one of those was the timing belt and the water pump. Toyota recommends doing those every 100,000 miles. And then the other one was the lower ball joints. If you've been looking up third gen 4Runners, you've probably heard about lower ball joints. Don't wait for those to go wrong because your tire can literally come off. Just do it preventatively every 100,000 miles. There's been people that's not replaced them and they're on the original ones that are 20 years old and have tons of miles on them, and that's when they have a failure. So just replace it and you'll be good to go. One thing that was a surprise for me was the fan motor, and this is like the only thing I can think of that was like, oh, it's kind of weird that went out. Whenever I turned on the heat or the air conditioner, the fan spinning would start to make some noise, and then like 2 days later, it went out. Thankfully, I didn't have to like take apart the dash to get to it. In the passenger footwell, under the glove box, there's a cover, and right there's the fan. So it was like a 20-minute repair. And I think the part at the time was like 80 or 100 bucks, so not too bad. The second reason why these things are so expensive is because they're very versatile. The late 90s and early 2000s was the heyday of the sport utility vehicle. Ford had the Explorer, Chevy had the Blazer, Nissan had the Pathfinder and the Xterra. Isuzu even had the Trooper during this time frame. This is where these 4Runners, this is the market they were in. At the time, this was the mid-size SUV, even though they're kind of smaller compared to mid-size SUVs today. But these are so popular because they check a lot of boxes for what people are looking for. They are easy to drive. That's my favorite thing I think about the 4Runners is the seating position is great and you have great visibility all the way around. I don't have a backup camera on this 4Runner. I know some people do, but I feel like I have great visibility with those big windows and hardly any blind spots. Now in its size, it can fit 4 adults or 5 people total. If your friends are really skinny or you have 3 kids in the back, you can do that. But the cargo space is great. Parts are not expensive. These are easy to work on, and there is a tremendous aftermarket support for these things, especially if you go into the camping, off-road, overland market. I mean, there are so many options to outfit these 4Runners how you want to use it. Now, these 4Runners came in a few different options. The most popular is the V6 four-wheel drive models, either an SR5 or the Limited. They did make 4 cylinders, they did make 2-wheel drives, but they're not as popular. They also had some pretty unique options as well. Now there's things out there called the unicorn 4Runners. These are 4Runners that have the rare factory 5-speed manual transmission. They have the locking rear differential, and they have the TRD supercharger. Supercharger was a dealer option, but those are the unicorn 4Runners that are out there that are kind of very unique with what they have. But again, most popular is the V6 auto 4-wheel drive. The third reason why these 4Runners are so expensive is because they are worth it. The value is still there on these old 4Runners. And let's kind of compare some things right now. A brand new 5th generation 2023 4Runner is going to be $40,000 for the 4-wheel drive model. A brand new TRD Pro Edition 4Runner with the crazy cool colors is going to be $50,000 and above. I love the lime rush color. I think it's super cool. But let's look at like vehicle ownership super simply. Let's say that you can find a 3rd gen 4Runner that's been well kept up for $10,000. Is there such a difference between the $10,000 3rd gen 4Runner and the 5th gen 4Runner that's $40,000 or $50,000? That's a lot of money in between these. And again, super simply looking at this, you can drive both, you can own both, you can depend on both, you can have fun with both, whatever you want to do with it. Is there such a difference? That's a question you'll have to ask. Now, this is not me shaming anybody that buys a new car or has a 5th gen 4Runner. I love 5th gen 4Runners. Like I said, lime rush color, those look super sweet. I want to have one someday. My wife and I last year took a 5th gen 4Runner from East Tennessee to the Upper Peninsula in Michigan and back on a road trip, and we absolutely loved the thing. It was awesome. They are hands down an awesome vehicle. But you got to think today, consumer debt is going through the roof. The economy, only God knows what's going on. So people are voting with their dollars. They're trying to get the best bang for their buck. Likewise, for better or worse, if you're going to sell something, you want to get the best bang for your buck. You don't want to lowball yourself. People are listing these 4Runners on Bring a Trailer, and they are fetching top dollar. So then people that own 3rd gen 4Runners see, man, that thing sold for $24,000. Maybe mine's not that nice, but maybe I can sell it for $12,000 or $15,000. They list it, people give them a lot of grief, like, oh, that's way overpriced, and it sells. And this guy's like, well, mine's got more miles, maybe I can sell mine for $10,000. Like, oh, that's crazy, you'll never get that. And then it sells. For some reason, this really upsets people, and I don't know why. I guess gone are the days of finding the 4Runner that's got 130,000 miles, that grandma only drove to church, and she always took it to the Toyota dealership, and she always kept it in the garage, and everything is perfect. It looks brand new. You're not gonna find that 4Runner for $5,000 anymore. You probably will with crazy like marketplace deal or somebody doesn't know what they have, but by and large, you're not gonna find that for $5,000 anymore. Again, that makes some people mad. For me personally, I guess this is kind of selfish, but I already have a 3rd gen 4Runner. So for me, seeing these prices increases kind of makes me like, oh, the value of my asset is increasing. This is something that I own. Fun fact, I have driven this thing, like I said, for 7 years, 200,000 miles. I could sell this thing now for what I paid for it back in 2016, which is crazy. So guys, that's why these 4Runners are so expensive, is because they are worth it. They are good vehicles, you can depend on them, you can have tons of fun with them. If you're in the market for a 3rd gen 4Runner, I urge you to keep looking. You're gonna find the one that pops up that's close to you, it's the right deal. Just keep looking for it. Some other tips for you, if you are learning more about 3rd gen 4Runners, is make sure that the timing belt and water pump has been swapped out. There were some issues with the radiator with the transmission line, so when you get a new one, just go ahead and swap out the radiator. Same with the lower ball joints. Make sure those have been swapped out recently for factory new Toyota ball joints. Don't use some crazy AutoZone brand, you will regret it. But just have fun with it. If you have a 3rd gen 4Runner, be happy you have one and enjoy it. Guys, that's all I have for today. My name is Jeff. I want you guys to go out there and do good.